It's been a while since I've been on here. Um, haven't quite been in the mindset recently, last couple of years, to get on here and make a video. I've kind of just been going with the flow of life, and I guess I feel a calling somewhere in the back of my consciousness to get back on here and continue to do this. I recently heard someone speak about, and I'm afraid to go into the specifics for, copyright issues, but this individual was kind of rephrasing a common expression um, in such a way that it spoke to me on a level that had not quite been reached prior. Um, I guess what he was saying, and you might know it, you might be able to put it together, but at the end of it, basically, if when you lay your head down at night and you think to yourself, well, that was it. There might not be any more. How do you feel about that? Are you okay with the results, the way things played out? Or will there be a part of you somewhere in some quiet voice in your mind, or it may be loud, that says to you, nah, that wasn't right? But then I think to myself, well, what is right? What would be enough? What is it that I'm regretting? What is it that, beyond the pleasure, leaves me with a sense of satisfaction? I've been saying a lot recently. I imagine that there was a soldier in Germany during World War II who had just been wounded, and in that moment was observing the last few moments of his life. And let's say he was just a few months out of high school. The only thing I think that would give an individual the sense of, well, it's okay, I can find the ultimate value in how this moment is playing out. At least this is for my people. This is for something I believe in. This is for an idea that's greater than me. I've heard it be said before that, a people without purpose will seek endless pleasure. And I think I have experienced that firsthand without claiming, and I say that not to say that nobody else has, just talking from my experience. And I believe that that is an observation that anybody can find if you live long enough. But just like maybe the use of substance or spirits, you'll build a tolerance to those sources, and you will no longer reach that sense of gratification. And I believe that all of us humans must have inherited the DNA from our ancestors, regardless of where your ancestors' geographical origination happens to be. The time that we get to spend in this space looking outside through the eyes and listening with the ears, it is no secret that, excuse me, the screen went blank. It is no secret that time is limited. And so, in our youth, we are sensationalized, and we are almost like a plastic bag in the wind. And we just go where the sensation takes us. But as you've had time to experience life, I believe the picture becomes more clear. The pull in just any direction becomes not quite as acceptable as it previously was. And so now it's time to pick a direction. And we must go in that direction until we can no longer continue. And so I've been thinking today, and I've had a couple of conversations with people about this recently, listening to another content creator. I've been able to clarify the perspective of the baptism. Now, when I was in Oceanside, California, a few years back for a visit, I had gotten caught in the riptide. And I remember the moments of being pulled underneath and sent back up, and feeling the sense of helplessness, and asking myself, what if this is really it? And then I was delivered back to the shore, and I was able to walk out of the shore. And recently, I witnessed a baptism, a formal one by way of a church. And I think of the symbolic reference of the baptism as a ceremony, I believe, is supposed to represent the rebirth of who you are now after having almost drowned. The pastor, if that's who actually immerses you in the water, and for a moment in time, not truly, but you're drowning. And then when you come back to, when you are lifted out of the water, you have been reborn, and you have been saved from drowning. Now, in the baptism, in the expression of the baptism, the individual who immerses the baptized person underwater represents, to me, the mentor, the one who guides you through the pain, the experience, so that way when you come up, you understand the mentor's purpose. Now, the waters and the riptide that I found myself caught in, for lack of a better word, the universe pulled me back up. And I didn't know how long I was going to be down there. So that was my uncertainty. The focus isn't me, because I'm not the only one who has been through this experience. I think that rather that's just an experiential, a first-hand experiential representation of how I find the analogy of the representation of the symbology of the baptism. Now, going back to the seeking of endless pleasure, please excuse my timer. When you have been baptized, you have a new opportunity to pick a direction. Because as I have heard Steve Jobs say, when you are facing the end of your existence, you're able to refocus your priorities. And if your priorities were similar to that of the sensations that pulled you and moved you around like a plastic bag in the wind, now you have discovered the value of said sensations and are able to drop the dead weight. Now, symbolically, the official baptism is more of a ceremonial representation of your commitment, which I don't want to discredit in any way. The distinction that I am attempting to make is that the organic baptism by way of the universe is not one where we get to choose the day and the date. It is chosen for us. And in order to become who we are destined to be, if that's appropriate, is we have to face what we don't want to face. And as I was saying to somebody earlier today, I think that oftentimes we don't want to face our baptism, because that which baptizes us organically runs the risk of being your last event in this form. However, if we do not look directly into this thing that is our baptism, this thing that is the experience, not specifically one event, although it may be, not any one person specifically, although it may be, for each one who has had the opportunity to be a human, yours is for you. But if we don't look, then it will be kind of like a monster that will hang in our peripheral, whichever word is more appropriate. And we'll know that it's not in our direct line of sight, and we'll try to act like it's not there. But like the drop of water on the forehead, eventually we will be worn down. But in the facing of it, if we live, we will be baptized. We will be reborn. We will be made anew. And I had to go to the definitions so I could be clear and articulate myself in the way that I find most appropriate. Merriam-Webster, according to my phone, defines baptism in two ways. One, to administer baptism by way of religion. Two, the way I'm referring to it, to purify or cleanse spiritually, especially by a purging. So then, for my own clarification, I googled the definition of purge, and the first definition is rid someone or something of unwanted quality, condition, or feeling. Whether our baptism, whether it be our feelings, our conditioning, our qualities, it must be removed. Inside of the suffering, that is the organic baptism, is a quest for understanding. The quest to relieve, remedy the suffering. And in there is found at least a solution towards the suffering, or the discovery of a reason as to why the suffering occurred, and therefore a preventative measure that one can articulate for the sake of prevention to anyone worthy. I like to think that the guru is found in the ugliest of places, where you don't want to go. What good is it to save someone who doesn't need to be saved? Of what use is it to speak to someone who doesn't hear you? Now, I'm not saying I had been baptized. But I've just been exploring this thought lately, because I know my time will come. And I think that if there's anything that I have to give, it's not money, it's not talent, it's no thing I think that is worth bragging about. I just think that maybe if there's someone out there who thinks like me, maybe these philosophies that I explore may be useful to the individual who's willing to listen to what I have to say. I don't know how much longer I want to make this video go. I'm going to try to close it up here soon. I think if I were to describe God without limiting the scope of comprehension, perspective, I would say that if nothing else, God is a set of rules, principles, philosophies, and ideas that, if I'm using this word correctly, are conducive to your ongoing production and longevity and purpose as a consciousness having a human experience. And so if not literally, then figuratively, by being baptized, you are making your commitment to your newfound philosophies, principles, rules, and ideas. And therefore you will go into service. You will begin to act in such a manner that is in alignment with those newfound philosophies, principles, ideas, aka God. And if you when you do that, that is your religion. And when you find that at the end of your experience as a human being, if you are aware of your last moments, maybe also in another life, but in this life, if you are aware that the screen is about to go black, that is the moment in which you will stand before God and be judged. You will stand before your principles, philosophies, ideas, and rules. And you will be rewarded with the peaceful acceptance that even though this is the end, you did what you were here to do. And if not, you will be forced to accept the hell, the torment of regret and knowing or feeling that you failed to live your true calling. And I can't tell you what your calling is. I can't tell you what God to serve, which God to serve. That is between you and the physical world and the abstract concepts that you perceive with your human senses, your sense of logic and reasoning, and your emotional framework. I'm getting ready to end this video. I hope it made sense. First video of 2024. If you watched it, if it meant something to you, I'm grateful. Thank you.